Welcome back, everyone, to another explainer. I am honestly so thrilled you're here today because, well, what we're going to unpack has the potential to completely revolutionize how you work, how you study, and really just fundamentally change how you measure your own daily progress. If you've ever felt totally drained after a long day of trying to focus, but you still kind of felt like you didn't accomplish enough, yeah, this explainer is exactly for you. Let's dive right in and rethink productivity. I want you to be totally honest with me for a second. How many times have you asked yourself at the end of the day, did I study for 2 hours today? We do this all the time, right? We constantly judge our work and our learning by the clock. We set a timer, lock ourselves in a room, and somehow equate just the sheer passage of time with actually acquiring knowledge. It's literally the most common metric we use to decide if we had a good or productive day. And this obsession with time, it sneaks into even the most popular productivity hacks out there. You've probably asked yourself, did I finish 4 Pomodoro sessions today? Now, don't get me wrong, breaking work into focused intervals is absolutely a step in the right direction. But let's take a step back and look at what's really happening here. You're still trapped. You're still measuring your success by the clock. Ultimately, you're just tracking how many minutes you manage to keep yourself glued to a chair.
So here is the absolutely crucial point we need to make. Time simply does not equal learning quality. Just because you spend 4 hours sitting at a desk, there is no way that guarantees you actually absorbed 4 hours worth of information. The amount of time you log staring at a textbook or a screen is just a fundamentally flawed metric for success. Why? Because it completely ignores the single most important factor in the whole equation, the actual state of your brain while you were sitting there.
Section 1, the 5% battery, the physical limit of mental energy. Think about the number 5%. Imagine you're holding your smartphone right now, you glance up at the top right corner, and the battery indicator is flashing red at exactly 5%. Would you honestly expect your phone to run at full speed for the rest of the day? Would you try to launch a heavy gaming app, stream a 4K movie, or record a massive video with that tiny sliver of battery left? No way! You wouldn't even try because you know the device is physically incapable of high performance in that state. Well, here's the reality check. Your brain works the exact same way. It's a physical organ and it consumes a massive amount of energy. When you lock into a really complex task, you are rapidly depleting local glucose levels in your brain and burning through key neurotransmitters. Your brain is literally burning up its physical fuel. So just like that dying smartphone, your cognitive battery drains and your mental performance takes a huge nosedive. And the symptoms? Oh, they are universally recognizable. Think about what happens when you try to push past your mental limits and just ignore that low battery warning. You start rereading the exact same paragraph 3, maybe 4 times, and the words just blur together, right? You make simple, completely foolish mistakes you'd normally never make. And worst of all, you struggle to remember a concept you literally just learned 5 minutes ago. These aren't just minor annoyances. They are the direct symptoms of a drained brain practically begging for a charger. If there's one single thing I want you to take away from this entire explainer, it's this quote right here. The problem isn't a lack of discipline. When you find yourself staring blankly at a page, feeling super frustrated, please stop beating yourself up. It is not a moral feeling. You're not being lazy, and it's not because you lack willpower. You simply lack high-quality cognitive energy right then. You're trying to run a high-demand app on a 5% battery. Section 2. Enter the cognitive cycle. A new framework for focused learning. Let's clearly define this so we can really ground our new approach. A cognitive cycle is one complete session of focused learning while your brain is still operating efficiently. Now, did you notice what's totally missing from that definition? Yep, there's absolutely no mention of time. A cycle isn't 20 minutes, it isn't an hour, it's a biological window. It lasts exactly as long as your brain is actually functioning at a high level. And this perfectly illustrates the huge contrast between the old way of doing things and the new way. On one hand, you have the traditional method, right? Stopping your work just because an arbitrary timer says 25 or 50 minutes are up. But on the other hand, you have the cognitive cycle method, stopping when you actually feel your cognitive performance starting to slip. You're shifting away from obeying a little piece of plastic ticking on your desk, and instead, you're tuning in and listening to your brain's natural performance signals. Making this switch requires a massive, fundamental shift in your goals. Your objective can no longer be to just maximize your study time. You gotta let go of that bragging right of saying, oh, I studied for 8 hours today. Instead, your goal has to be maximizing learning quality. We are talking about a total shift from quantity to absolute quality. You are trading empty, exhausting hours for deep,
highly impactful moments of true understanding.
The procedure to actually apply this is wonderfully simple, but you have to be strict about it. Step 1, complete one efficient cognitive cycle, working until you feel that inevitable performance dip. Step 2, take a real break to recharge. And guys, I really cannot stress this enough. A real break. Not scrolling on social media or staring at another screen, but actually letting your mental battery physically restore itself. And only then do we hit step 3, start the next cycle. Step 2 is the absolute linchpin here. Without a proper recharge, that next cycle is basically useless. Section 3, the 3 major benefits. Why this approach transforms learning. It's so cool how these 3 benefits perfectly interconnect. First off, it massively reduces mental fatigue because you're intentionally stopping before you hit total exhaustion. And because you aren't running yourself into the ground, it unlocks the second benefit. You maintain significantly higher concentration during your active sessions. Your battery's always in the green when you're actually working. And third, this naturally encourages deliberate learning. You aren't just hoarding hours to feel good about yourself, you're actively engaging with the material at your absolute peak capacity. Section 4, a new productivity metric. Changing your internal monologue. The very first step to rewiring that internal monologue of yours is to stop asking, how long did I study today? Just completely drop this outdated, time-based question from your daily routine. Toss it out. It's serving absolutely no one, and frankly, it is actively pushing you straight toward burnout. Instead, I want you to replace it with this new, vastly superior question. How many high-quality cognitive cycles did I complete today? This is exactly how you should be gauging your daily progress from now on. Did you knock out 2 incredibly deep, hyper-focused cycles where your brain was just firing on all cylinders? Because let me tell you, that is infinitely better than sitting at a desk for 6 hours feeling like an absolute zombie. I want to read this really powerful quote straight from the source material because it perfectly cements the whole paradigm shift we've been talking about today. Productivity is no longer measured by time. It is measured by the quality of my thinking. Just let that sink in. The quality of your thinking is quite literally the only metric that actually moves the needle when you're trying to learn something complex. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative question to chew on before you sit down for your very next focused session. Are you going to continue studying based on just the clock, letting a timer dictate your worth and your progress? Or are you going to break free from that and start working based on your actual cognitive energy? The choice is entirely yours, but I think we both know only one of them actually respects how your brain works. Thanks so much for hanging out with me to explore this awesome shift in productivity. I highly, highly encourage you to try out your very first cognitive cycle today.